Federal regulators are hearing from the public tonight on what should happen next with the San Onofre nuclear plant. We'll have a report from the meeting. And Congressman Bob Filner releases his calendar, but there are still questions in our ongoing investigation into the mayoral candidates and political influence. Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Those stories are coming up next on KPBS Evening Edition.
And I'm Peggy Pico. San Diego is home to a growing number of immigrants. Coming up, we'll take a look at the political implications of changing San Diego neighborhoods. Plus, a new study reveals how you can improve your home's water efficiency by up to 30%.
We'll also take an in-depth look tonight at Proposition 33. It could affect your auto insurance payment. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dwayne Brown. A public meeting about the San Onofre nuclear generating station is underway in Dana Point right now. It started just half an hour ago. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is hosting the meeting and providing a live webcast. This is a chance for regulators to gauge public opinion about the plant. Of course, it's been offline since the end of January. KPBS senior Metro reporter Allison St. John is at the meeting. She joins us now by phone. Allison, tell us what's been happening.
Well, Dwayne, the room is packed. It was a room that's twice the size of the last meeting. It's got enough for 1,000 people, and there are people standing outside who couldn't get in. So it is full. And the timing is crucial since Edison has just submitted its plan to restart Unit 2 at 70% power. Now, a lot of people have opinions about this, but the moderator has just told us that the purpose of this meeting is not a debate or a hearing. It's simply a discussion with questions and answers. They have a panel, and the panel consists of people who are both for or against the restart. I think that's important because part of the purpose of this meeting is to gauge public opinion. And the audience, it turns out, has a lot of people who work at the plant and whose jobs are at stake sitting in the audience. So they are cheering the people who, for example, say that recent scientific evidence suggests that small amounts of radiation are not harmful, in fact, may even be beneficial. And then you have the other half of the audience that is cheering the people who say they do not want to see this plant restarted, and instead they want a legal hearing, an independent hearing. So this meeting is not a hearing, it's simply a meeting, but it will be giving some of the state regulators who are here a sense of what the public opinion is.
KPBS senior Metro reporter Allison St. John. That meeting is expected to go on until about 9:30 tonight. California's soaring gas prices have sputtered a bit, although the state average is still at a record high. Prices rose a fraction of a cent overnight. This is a station we've been keeping an eye on since last week. Prices had been shooting upwards every day, but today it's the same as yesterday, $4.79 a gallon for regular. The statewide average, by the way, is just over $4.67 a gallon. San Diego mayoral candidate Bob Filner says he's released his personal campaign and congressional calendar to the KPBS iNewsSource investigations desk. The congressman was challenged to release the document in a show of transparency, but there are huge holes in the calendar. Investigations producer Joanne Farian is here to explain and tell us where the holes are.
Well, Dwayne, the calendar covers a period of about 9 months this year. It's missing several days, 91 out of 261, and it doesn't contain any business conducted in Washington, D.C. Now take a look. This is what the congressman released to us. It's a long list of luncheons, dedications, and speaking engagements, but there's a lot missing. For example, the calendar stops at July 29th. It skips several days. We know, in fact, the congressman did cast a vote on legislation in D.C. August 1st, but his calendar actually contains no activity in D.C.
And Joanne, why did Congressman Filner make a point of releasing these documents?
Well, Dwayne, actually legally, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to release any of his communications or his calendar because he's a congressman, and he's exempt under the Freedom of Information Act. However, after our investigation into Councilmember Carl DeMaio's relationship with Doug Manchester, and I'll remind you, he's the wealthy developer and newspaper owner, the two candidates have challenged each other to release their personal calendars so that the public, us, so we can see who they're meeting with. Is there potential conflict of interest, or perhaps will they be influenced by powerful people if they're elected mayor? Now, neither candidate has yet to release a calendar that provides any of that insight.
KPBS investigations producer Joanne Farian. And we have more on the investigation online at kpbs.org/port. The endorsements keep coming in the race for San Diego mayor. Today, members of the Public Safety Committee weighed in on the race. KPBS Metro reporter Katie Orr joins us now with that story. So who made an endorsement today, Katie, and for which candidate?
Dwayne, the San Diego Police Officers Association and the San Diego County Deputy Sheriffs have announced their endorsements of Democratic Congressman Bob Filner for mayor. The Filner campaign says California Attorney General Kamala Harris has also endorsed him. The San Diego POA endorsed Assemblyman Nathan Fletcher in the primary, but Vice President Jeff Jordan says the union believes Filner understands their needs. He says the POA does not trust Filner's opponent, Republican City Councilman Carl DeMaio.
Now he's been reaching out to us to seek our endorsement. Well, that's too little too late for us. So when we talked to Bob has taken a great deal of time to understand our issues, to work with us.
Now, is this endorsement unexpected, Katie?
Well, the POA endorsed Assemblyman Fletcher in the primary, as I said, but it, like other city unions, have had a contentious relationship with Filner's opponent, with DeMaio. DeMaio backed the movement to switch new employees from a pension to a 401k, and even though police aren't included in that program, they still didn't support the measure. So in that sense, it wasn't really surprising. DeMaio did issue a statement saying he respects the police force and looks forward to working with it in a constructive way.
KPBS Metro reporter Katie Orr. San Diego has become home to a growing number of immigrants who are changing the face of our region. Peggy Pico explores the political implications of population changes in one neighborhood.
Demographic data predicts we'll be a multicultural majority nation by 2042. America by the Numbers, a new PBS documentary, looks at how the cultural shift will affect elections. And it's a question being asked here in City Heights. Joining me to talk about this issue are Norma Sandoval, an educator and volunteer for the San Diego Organizing Project, and PBS correspondent and America by the Numbers host, Maria Hinojosa. Thank you both for joining me. Maria, your documentary revealed there's a big political interest in a lot of immigrant communities. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that many immigrant communities understand that this is the world's largest democracy, right? And so part of the democracy is being able to vote. I think that there's a lot of dreams that come when you make the decision to come to this country, or in the case of Clarkston, Georgia, where America by the Numbers is based, these were refugees that were relocated. Sometimes these people have never even had a homeland. They have not even been a citizen of any one place because their homelands are, very divisive, etc. So for them to vote, it's a historic moment, and they inculcate this with their young people. And frankly, given the demographics in our country, that's what we want to start seeing over and over again in these immigrant communities and Latino communities, people owning the power to vote.
It seemed in the documentary that there was some ownership. I'm an American now, and they sort of they belong to this country. Norma, you grew up in City Heights. Yes. Do you think that's the same there right now? What is sort of the political environment, we might say, going on right now?
Well, City Heights, the majority of the residents are below the age of 18. So you have this growing generation that is sometimes not always informed about what to do. And so the power structure right now is mostly given by the white, older generation. As an educator, I partake in making sure that my students are informed so that they can be participants in making a change in their community.
Let's talk about, Maria, your documentary and the enormous shift that happened. If you can briefly tell us what happened in Georgia, and do you see that playing out in places like City Heights?
Well, so I like to talk about Clarkston, Georgia, like the future of America on steroids. This was a community that, was essentially over 90% white and American born, 30 years ago. And in the past, in this couple of decades has been transformed from being majority white to being now a majority not white. And what does that mean for this particular community? It's happening everywhere. It's happening here in San Diego. It's happening in Tennessee. It's happening in Alabama. It's happening everywhere. And so what we like to talk about in the documentary is that the numbers are clear, but how do real people deal with this change? And so we address the issue of fear of this change and essentially try to give voice to this so that we as a society can move forward.
What do you, I'm going to ask both of you this, and I'll start with you, Marie. What do you think here in San Diego, in communities like City Heights, a high immigrant population, we can learn from what's happening in Georgia?
Well, I think that what we can learn is that if you are engaged, if you own your voice, which is the essence of democracy, you in fact do have power. We want people to own their power, to own this notion that they can change, right? What we don't want is for people who feel like they're not the majority, for example, for them to feel like, well, I have no role, I can do nothing, nothing can change, and I'm disenfranchised and ignored.
If in City Heights, who isn't voting? Is it people who feel this way, or is it just young people, or what's stopping people from voting?
Well, I think that, like in District D, which is part of City Heights, we have 53% registered voters, and only 19% of those, 19,000 of those are minority voters. So I think it's the fear of not understanding, sometimes maybe the language, not knowing where to turn to, that is keeping people from actually engaging. I know people that, well, I voted last time and nothing was done from it, so I don't know if I want to continue voting when my voice is not being heard.
How do you inspire them?
I take my children with me, and I said, you need to do it for them. You need to do it for yourself. You need to do it for the children around you, because we are their voice, and we need to do it as a responsibility for our future generation.
All right. Thank you both for talking to us. We are out of time. However, you can join in on this conversation tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the KPBS screening of PBS Need to Know Election Special, America by the Numbers. You can get all the details on our website at kpbs.org.
California voters are getting a chance to tweak the state's car insurance rules. Proposition 33 would reward drivers with continuous insurance coverage and make those without continuous coverage pay more. KPBS business and environment reporter Eric Anderson says supporters argue it will save drivers money, but opponents say some good drivers will pay more.
The idea isn't new. In fact, Proposition 33 is similar to the voter-rejected Proposition 17 on the ballot 2 years ago. Essentially, people who've had car insurance continuously for 5 years can get a discount. People who've had an interruption in coverage would face much higher car insurance fees. Prop 33 adds some exceptions that include military, students, and children living with their parents. It's a message that supporters will put on televisions around the state.
Prop 33 would reduce insurance rates for all drivers by encouraging uninsured drivers to purchase insurance.
Consumers deserve a reward. Vote yes on Prop 33.
Rachel Hooper works for the Yes on 33 campaign. She says current law only allows the consumer's current insurers to offer a loyalty discount. She says Prop 33 makes the market more competitive by making a continuous coverage discount portable.
I have a colleague who has insurance with one carrier. He's had it for 20 years, and he wanted to go to a different carrier because he liked their customer service better. But when he called that new company, they said they couldn't match what he was currently paying. They couldn't match his rate because they can't give him that continuous coverage discount.
Prop 33 is the second try to create a new provision in California's car insurance marketplace. The owner of Mercury Insurance, a self-made billionaire, funded 2010's Prop 17, and he's a major supporter of Prop 33. George Joseph spent nearly $15 million then, and he put up another $8 million this time.
There's no secret that it's the personal funds of George Joseph, but I think He really values competition in the marketplace and sees that if Prop 33 passes, there's more competition. Again, it benefits consumers because with more competition, you have lower rates.
Voters just have to ask themselves one simple question.
Carmen Balber works with Consumer Watch, an advocacy group that's opposing Prop 33.
When is the last time an insurance company executive spent $8 million to save you money on your car insurance? Everyone knows the answer is never.
Her group is working with a fraction of the budget of her opponents. Instead of television spots, their ads are online only.
My name's Kyle. I'm a college student right now. I can't afford a car as of now, but even if I could, my school doesn't allow us to have them on campus.
Balder says she hopes voters see this as a retread of Prop 17. She says the measure isn't about loyalty discounts.
That discount won't change. Prop 33 creates a new one. It will give some people a small discount for having prior insurance, and will give people who didn't have prior insurance an increase in their auto insurance rates.
Balber says the measure makes a major change to car insurance protections passed by voters 24 years ago. Proposition 103 was approved 3 years after California made car insurance coverage mandatory. It created consumer protections in a marketplace that required coverage.
Insurance companies can't charge you more just because you don't have current insurance, just because of your history of insurance coverage, because that was a way for the insurance industry to redline out customers that they just didn't want to cover.
UC San Diego Professor Thad Kauser says he's not surprised to see the issue back in front of voters just 2 years after a similar bill failed to get support. That, he says, is how California's direct democracy system works. Money can and does buy ballot access.
Well, what we've seen in the past, whether it's Pacific Gas and Electric's initiative that failed a few years ago, this other Mercury Insurance initiative, is that voters are often skeptical when there's one group behind this process that's supposed to be for us all.
If Proposition 33 passes, about 80% of California drivers could qualify for a continuous coverage discount. Drivers who don't qualify would pay for those discounts with higher rates. Well, make sure you check out KPBS's voter guide. It breaks down the big races and measures into clear language with links to our stories and candidate bios. You can even take it to the polls with you on your smartphone. You can find the KPBS voter guide on our website at kpbs.org/voterguide. A new report from the nonpartisan think tank, the Equinox Center, finds San Diego's most critical resource challenge is water use. Peggy Pico finds out how the study could help families conserve water.
The report details San Diego County residential water use right down to how many times a toilet is flushed and how many gallons of water your washing machine needs for a load of laundry. My guest, Ann Tart with the Equinox Center, is here with a few ideas on efficient water use in our homes. Ann, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Give us the big picture as to why this report called water use the most critical resource challenge for San Diego.
Well, San Diego imports about 70% of all the water that we use in San Diego County. And so as the region grows, as our economy grows and our population grows, it's one of those things that we're going to need to deal with. We need water to run our businesses, our pharmaceutical, our biotech companies. We need water to maintain human health and sanitation. So it's important for all aspects of our quality of life.
Let's break down the data. It was very specific. What did you find inside the home?
Well, we actually had access to data that really monitored indoor use for samples of homes in San Diego County. And the biggest user of water inside our homes is toilet flushing. Not a very glamorous topic, but that's that. And then after that, we see clothes washers, showers, and faucet use being the next.
Yeah, not a whole lot with leaks or dishwasher, so that seems like pretty efficient.
Right.
This data was important to be this specific because you've come up, or there's ideas you have certainly for how to lower or conserve water or use it more efficiently inside the home.
Right. I mean, one of the surprising findings to me was that only about 3 to 4% of our population has installed the most efficient clothes washer or toilet flushing technologies, actually. So it looks like there's still more room to conserve and be more efficient in our homes.
The study also says that it estimates that about up to 30% of outdoor water use could be altered or improved.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Right. So one of the major findings is that on average, the single-family homes are using about 50 gallons more water every day than they need to water their landscapes. So that if you add that up over time, if a home stopped overwatering their landscape, they would save about 17,000 gallons of water per year. It's pretty significant.
Absolutely, it is. The low water landscaping, so we know that's a solution. You take out and you put in drought tolerance, a low water needed plant, you put in drip irrigation, but that costs money.
Right.
So what can people do if they want to try to be more efficient with their water but don't have a whole bunch of money to spend on it?
Right, good question. Well, simply, first of all, reducing overwatering is important, just knowing what your landscape should take and not watering as much. But also things like watering, at night or early in the morning when there's less evaporation, so that the water that you are putting on your plants is going into the ground instead of evaporating into the air is another thing that people can do. Water a little bit less frequently. Usually most plants can take that. So there's a number of other things that people can do.
And I understand one way to do it is succulents are very popular because you can just break a piece off and stick it in the ground.
Right.
So you could do it gradually.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
All right. Well, there's a catch-22 when it comes to water pricing and conservation. Water agencies say they lose money when they when the use goes down because people aren't paying high bills. So they raise their prices. So then the consumer at home has done what they're supposed to do, but still gets a high water bill. What can be done about that?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a conundrum about how we price our water and how water utilities work. But we've looked at some research that shows that if water utilities change their pricing structure so that they're really incentivizing people to conserve and then on the other end sort of discouraging people to waste water, that can actually provide a more stable revenue stream for the water utility during times of drought so that they don't have to, put their prices up so dramatically when people start conserving.
Would a tiered water rate structure work better where the people who use the most have to pay the most?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, that tiered water structure, significantly tiered water structure is shown to work in other areas to kind of even out that situation.
A little bit more dramatic than what we're seeing right now.
Yes.
Got it. I've often heard, why should we conserve water, especially here in San Diego? We've got the Pacific Ocean right here at our doorstep. We can just desalinate. Why not do that?
Right. Well, we've done a report on desalination, and it looks like it is an option for the region. But the thing is, we need to get a handle on how much water overall we're going to need in the coming decades, and so that we can see how low we can go, let's say. And then once we know how efficient we can be, then I think it makes sense to figure out how much are we going to spend on these other supply options like seawater desalination or recycled water, for example.
All right, Ann Tart at the Equinox Center, thank you so much for talking to us. Now you can find out about what the city of San Diego is doing to conserve water by going to our website, kpbs.org.
A San Diego photographer who's traveled the world capturing intimate photos of people from Asia, Latin America, and Africa is on a mission to stop the ritualistic killing of children in the lower Omo Valley in southwest Ethiopia, a place National Geographic calls the last frontier in Africa. You may have seen the work of John Rowe on the pages of various publications, including National Geographic.
Oh, I love people, and I love photographing people and culture, and I think it's so fascinating.
He's lived in San Diego County for 25 years and was once a photographer for the Navy, but he's now on another mission in one of the most isolated areas in southwest Ethiopia, where drought and famine are believed to be a curse by some tribes brought on by children born out of wedlock, born a twin, or simply having a chipped tooth.
We're talking about a place in Africa that National Geographic calls the last frontier.
Much of the area remains tribal and is without clean water, electricity, or medical care. About 200,000 Ethiopians call this home.
They don't have an education. They don't have a written language. So trying to explain drought, famine, sickness, death, it's hard for them to know. They don't have access to information.
And for hundreds of years, this culture, known for its body adornment, had been sacrificing children for the good of the entire tribe.
When I heard that there were children dying and being killed, and we could prevent that, just one, if you can save one life in your life, that's quite an achievement.
Rowe was on assignment in the Omo Valley when his guide and now friend and colleague, Lali Laboku, told him he lost 2 sisters to the ritual and vowed to stop the killing.
And Lali told them, look, our generation, Lali's 30 years old, the new young people that are going to be the elders, we are going to change this for sure.
Omo Child has rescued 37 children, and they live together in a safe but small home. But the challenge is far from over. There are currently 50,000 Hammer people who still practice infanticide, and Rowe and Lali are still working to convince them.
And to be able to impact many lives, whether it's here in San Diego, whether it's in Africa, wherever it is in the world. As an American, as a person who has been blessed, you can't ignore your responsibility to give back.
And that's what Rowe says he's trying to do with his nonprofit, Omo Child. To see and hear more about the work Omo Child is doing, go to their website, omochild.org. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night.